I've been here for 5 years and I've owned 5 businesses in 5 years. And I started giving back to the community. So I started asking myself, what should I do? I started browsing ideas. Then I'm like, podcast. I'll start a podcast. I won't be able to teach the audience because I'm not expert, not qualified to help anyone. But what I can do is ask bold questions to qualified people. And I'm going to ask, how did you make your first million? Because this is credibility. The purpose of this podcast was from the beginning is giving value and giving back. Because I felt like I owe this community. Today's podcast is a very, very, very special podcast, Steve. And here's why. This is our first podcast, the first episode found in our new space. This is a new podcast that we built. You just need a new space. Downtown Ottawa. Very proud of the upgrade. I'm very proud of being able to have such a special guest for our first episode that we're filming today. Here's how I met my guest. I was on stage, I yapped a little bit, and then I said, hey, book a training session with me for we book a call. And then Monica booked a call, we jumped on call, we chatted, she hates social. She's terrified of making video. And then we did a couple sessions. Now he's a student. He's kind of a mentor to me because I learned so much from her about real estate. And this is the main reason why I brought her here today. She gave me a couple tips that if she shares with you, only if she's in a good mood, she's going to share with you. Yeah, need to rich. So pay attention to the podcast if you want to learn for free. Because she's so generous. She mentors me. I thought I'm going to be teaching her, but every time we do a session, she teaches me a little bit more than I teach her. And I'm like, damn, you need to be friends. And now I think we're becoming friends a little bit. She didn't buy me a drink yet, but yeah, she might. So without further ado, let me introduce to you Monica. Monica, she's now a very talented and knowledgeable real estate investor. She also has a full-time job. She has a bunch of hobbies like horseback riding, dancing, what else?
Oh my God, name it. Sports, anything. Volleyball's a big one.
Volleyball.
Yeah.
Nice. The season is coming right now.
It is. I'm hoping that I am going to be in good enough shape to play this year. Well, I had to skip the season.
Here's a big secret about Monica. She was a horse trainer. As a coach, she used to teach people how to ride horses up until 2015, 2017.
Actually, it's more recent than that, just before COVID, a couple months before COVID.
And switched to real estate investing. She's been doing real estate investing very aggressively. Like, how many deals have you worked on in the last couple of years?
I have one deal that is closed and it's mine and it's stabilized now. It's property that I also Airbnb, use my own technique of the house hack on it. And now I'm looking to develop that property. It's also zoned for 16 units, so I'm starting on that.
Look, have you done any other flipping before in the last couple of years?
I haven't flipped anything that I've done for resale. If I go back, I used to help my dad renovate properties when I was growing up. And the first property I owned years back, there was a pause in between because it was when I was with a partner. That house was bankruptcy that was purchased and then renovated. And it was an interesting experience.
Nice. What made you make the move just before COVID from horseback riding that is so much fun to a very boring deal?
So that's a great question. And honestly, it's a great story. So I had a very strong background in science and biology. When I was in high school, I had full scholarships, whether it was biology or vet school.
For some reason, I'm not surprised.
But I, being me, the dream of being a fighter pilot kind of took the side because of the glasses when I was 14. And I really had the dream of being a horseback rider, coach, trainer. And I kind of flipped a coin with God. So there was a program, my parents wouldn't let me not do post-secondary education. I wanted to leave, go to Europe, travel, and ride.
We've schooling go to Europe for a couple of years. He's going to practice.
But I mean, literally, you go, you sleep in the barns and you do whatever, you do whatever it takes.
Yeah.
I really wanted to do that, but it wasn't in the cards in my family in the strict upbringing that we have. But I heard about the equine science program in Quebec, and they only took 10 people per year. And I flipped a coin with God. I said, if I get in, I'm going to try this out. And so in equine science in college, that's where I started to learn about the different ratios for assessing the health of a business. And I really tripped out on this because I was so science-based in high school, I really didn't have a care for like money and how it worked. Like I did work as a kid, but I didn't, besides knowing that I needed money, I didn't really put more thought into it. So this whole idea of ratios really kind of woke me up, and I was like, oh, wait, if this exists for businesses, then it must exist for personal finance. And then I went down that rabbit hole, and it just so turned out that, the horse industry is not the most stable of industries.
Why?
That's a complicated question. I think it's still a young industry compared to other places in the world.
Even in Canada, because I know people race, because their own horses here. Every stable I go to, it's for the horses.
Oh, yeah. Full. Yes, for sure. But it's also expensive. It's also a luxury, and everything that
High maintenance.
all that jazz, right? So, and I was actually talking to someone from France last weekend who his daughter's into riding, and he was exclaiming how pricier it is in Canada than it was in France. So anyways, continuing on with the little shebang, during those years, I went through quite a few ups and downs of building up businesses and then having things fall through. It was always great on the client end. It was always great on the horse end. It was when it came to working out the different partnerships that it was a little more difficult. And ultimately, I went through 6 builds. And every time it was a question of starting worse than 0, like negative, right? And in between that, I picked up work in finance. I worked for quite some time with Desjardins.
As a finance advisor.
I became a financial advisor. I have to say that was very much self-taught for a lot of it. I did have university classes with different universities. They train you too, but I had already proven my worth. They basically picked me out. I started as a cashier. Yeah. Because again, I studied in equine science. What so that doesn't say much to an employer, right?
That's true.
So, but it was very rich, like the 3 years in college it was a very rich degree. So the thing that was always eluding me when I was doing the work, so during the time as a financial advisor and then balancing my business on the side, I was kind of getting that nagging feeling that was always at me of like, why is there such a divide between the very rich and the average? And during this time, I'm calculating retirements and helping people plan and helping people back from bankruptcy. And I don't have great solutions for them. I have like basic long-term solutions, but I don't have anything saying, okay, this is a huge, drastic difference for the rest of your life. And you're making the kind of money where you can really relax and enjoy luxuries. And it's back in 2019, I finally read the book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. A lot of people talk about it. But for me, it was that aha moment of, building assets, building cash flowing assets. And that was the one thing that I wasn't taking into consideration. Every time I was building up those businesses in the horse industry, I was, had a great clientele, was making money while it was able to teach and do those things, but I wasn't building any systems that were continuing to cash flow without me being present doing the work, or because I didn't want the physical space. Back then, I had quite a few limiting beliefs, and I didn't want to take care of the barn. I knew how, but I didn't want to. I wanted to be able to travel. I wanted to be able to compete. And I saw that as not possible. Now I look back and I'm like, oh, that was stupid. I could have done this a million different ways that would have worked, and I would have had all those things.
Why do you think you had limited beliefs?
It's another great question. I think depending on how, and that's another thing that I've learned with time separates, the very wealthy from the more average. We learn a lot of our mindset around money from our family, from our parents, and they've learned from theirs, right? So depending on what kind of information's passed down, that that is definitely something that can create limiting beliefs. So, I mean, to this day, my family is supportive, but it's strange to them what I
Be
do.
careful. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
What are tips you would give people to overcome their limited beliefs?
Oh my God, I have so much that I've done to overcome my limiting beliefs. And that's something that I really, ever since I've been a kid, that I want to have an open mindset. I want to keep growing. I want to keep pushing my limits. Can you be a little more specific? Because I can go in so many directions with this.
So I know tons of towns, especially in our beautiful city,
Yeah.
is so afraid of counting on themselves, betting on themselves, and do something because of so many factors. It's friendships, it's the wrong friendships, it's the wrong, parenthood that you receive, it's the wrong education for colleges and schools. We tend here to be a little bit more safe. I'm like, fuck, you're 20, you're 30, take fucking risks. Bankrupt, you have time to get it back out again. I mean, in Canada, you're not gonna go poor. You will find food in the food bank. You'll drive Uber.
Yeah, that was a really
Like,
cool conversation we had a little not too long ago. Was
when
that difference in mindset of you're coming from somewhere else and you're seeing all the wonderful social structure we have in place in Canada that's not necessarily utilized. So I think that's a great perspective of like, hey, there's a huge safety net here.
Monica, here's the thing. I was born in Lebanon and raised in Lebanon, and everyone there wants to start a business. And here's the thing, in business, there's no safety. But in that country, if you want to go to the hospital, you need to have deposit ready. If you go to the hospital in an ambulance, they would just do whatever so you don't die, but then they will tell you, I need money to start the surgery, even if you're bleeding and you're dying.
Yeah.
And yet we still don't go after the safety.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying we better, but I'm saying we have such amazing talents here. I built my business on amazing talents. It wasn't mine. It was other people that they had some amazing talent. They just put it in the right place. And they're still afraid to bet on themselves. And you're like 25 for F6. You're 35 for F6. You don't have kids. You're still not taking risks. Even if you have kids, they will be able to source money for college.
Yeah.
They will be able to. It's free medical system. Like, why are they not taking risks? My dad moved to Canada 3-4 years ago, and he saw me taking a lot of risks. He's like, "What do you do, son? You should keep this and be careful and keep like this much money." I'm like, "Dad, I'm keeping $8,000 that I will never touch." He's like, "Why?" I'm like, "Is to be able to buy a car that is 10 years old so I can do Uber again and be on my feet again. That's all I need, $8,000.
I love how you had an emergency plan.
That's how I started. We started with Uber. Uber got me here. Uber can get me here again. So what would you say? My tips are a little bit too aggressive, and some people, they're like, "Oh, this guy is like, maybe this is too much. I don't believe it." But for you, how did you overcome these limited?
I think I learned something very powerful as a kid. I think we had a bit of that discussion that I've never been the talented one. I've been the hardworking one, the one that is thirsty to learn.
You have 2 sisters, right?
I do. I have 2 beautiful, very talented sisters. Yeah.
As your dad's heart.
How's my dad's heart?
Usually when they have 3 beautiful daughters, you die with a heart attack. God forbid, but...
I don't know. He did break his back recently.
Oh, that's your mom's. It's your mom's fault. Oh.
So for me, that was like a very, very solid skill to learn that whatever is hindering, whatever's blocking, I'll be able to learn my way out of it. I'll be able to figure it out. I'd have to come back to like whether I was coaching in finance or in horses. And it was like a beautiful jump because when I was with the horses, I couldn't imagine myself doing anything else. I was literally waking up every day and I'm like, I'm living the dream. I am doing I'd pinch myself sometimes in the morning walking to work. I'd be like, okay, like this doesn't get any better, right? And it was a beautiful moment when I realized that doing finance with people, I am basically touching on the same point, and I'll try to tie this in a way that it's easy to make the link. I'm sure you've already heard people say something like the horse sees into your soul.
That's true. That's why you got to pet your dog to your ears. Know their name so they don't kick you.
Yeah, and some people say, oh my God, you don't be scared. They're going to know you're scared.
Yeah, that's true.
Things like that, right? Well, and that's all true. And it would mean that I develop very deep bonds with my students because the horse, whether they want to or not, the horse is giving me information that I'm then coming back to the client and saying, hey, how's this? What are we talking? And sometimes we go into conversations about something that happened to them 10 years ago, right? And we're sitting there, there's on the horse, I'm on the ground, and, we're having a tear fest, letting the emotions out and then starting over, right? But ultimately we found the abscess, whatever was blocking, right? So the interesting thing in finance is what would make you feel more naked? If I say to you, pull out your last 3 months of transactions from your bank accounts, I'm going to know everything you've been up to.
Hopefully things
You don't. Exactly.
in there.
You're joking, but it's the kind of thing that would happen. I mean, if
Like
somebody
Paramount Plus, YouTube subscription for the music, so I don't hear the advertising. Yeah, that's I don't even have this subscription on YouTube, and I know a lot of broke people that they have it just so they don't get bothered with the
Listen, all
with
the
advertising.
publicities,
Yeah, with the publicity.
Yeah. So, I mean, having like someone go through your transactions, talking about money habits, you're basically bearing your soul, your dirty habits, your insecurities, and oftentimes where you're kind of numbing yourself as well. All that information comes out. So I'd say I'm not a one size fits all kind of person. I really take the time to get to know who's in front of me. And over the years, I've developed the knack of, asking the right questions and help guide the person to whatever is blocking. Because depending on the person, it's not always the same thing. Maybe you have one of those talented people in your circle that they have some sort of insecurity linked to, well, I need to take care of my mom, but you don't know that that's the backstory. And so because nobody's addressing how to take care of their mom if they risk it all for their business, like you had your story of the 8,000 for the car, right? They need some contingency plan for their mom, but if all you're talking to them about is, hey, go do this, go do this, go do this, they're going to be like, and stuck there. And you don't know why they're stuck. They're not expressing why they're stuck. And it just never gets fixed. I don't know if that's a little bit.
Makes sense. It reminds me of a book that I read that's called Drive.
Okay.
My leadership coach gave me read it because all I thought, if I want to push my team, I need to offer them a reward, a money reward. Do this, you get this. Do this, you get this. And he's like, listen, you're treating your employees like pets. You do this, I'll give you a treat. They're not listening to what your employees want and what drives them. I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, here's what I mean. Read this book. You have 2 weeks to finish it and come back. Okay. And I read this book, and my biggest takeaway from this book is sit down with your team members individually and ask them what drives them. What do they desire? Some people, they want a reward, like just a medal.
Oh, my question was like, were they able to answer? Because a lot of people don't know what they want.
So you need to unleash people and discard them, and like start by telling about your goals and your drive. Tell about your stories, and then they will be like, okay, now I know so much secrets about this guy. I feel safe of giving them my secrets because I already have some secrets. So start the conversation. Listen, not many people knows about this. I'm giving out my secrets now. Not many people knows about this, but here's why I'm doing what I'm doing. And actually share a secret and mean it. Don't lie.
Yeah, no.
Like,
you need to be authentic. The authenticity is felt.
it was my brother's birthday yesterday.
Okay.
And many people knows about this conversation. And I asked him, how does it feel being this age? He's like, same, baby. I'm like, okay, what's the next big goal? He's like, 1 billion, making a lot of opportunities and feeding 1 billion people.
Wow.
Right? So like, that's his goal. Now I know that's his goal.
Yeah.
So any partnership I do with him in the future, I know how to reward him. So this is the kind of conversation you want to have with your team individually. Maybe they need lifestyle. Maybe they need time off. Maybe that's how they feel rewarded. Yes, pressure. You need, pressure to make diamond, right? Like you need to pressure the rock to get diamond out of it. But also the bread rises while it's resting.
Yeah.
So some
Oh, I
people
love-
need to rest.
That's very beautiful.
Some people need to rest.
I missed out on that one young a lot. I was like, just hit it hard and keep going. And you get a lot of value out of rest.
Maybe that's what works for you. Maybe people need some rest. For me, when I'm resting, I'm a bitch. I'm annoying. I can rest for a day. The second day, I'm moody.
Yes.
I have my periods. Yeah, I'm an annoying person.
We have to get into what is a woman, like they just declared in the States. So
Nothing can please me. So I need pressure in my life or I get lazy. I sleep in bed all day. I depress.
wow.
Some people needs to rest, but you need to get to know your team and your partners to be able to offer them what would drive them.
Yes, and also like compatibility for yourself, right?
That's a really good book. I would really recommend you read it if you have a team or if you want to become a better leader. I was a very terrible leader 2-3 years ago. I lost so many talents.
Okay.
So many talents on my team. And they left. It's not like I fired them. And they left because they felt intimidated. I was treating them the way I wanted to treat them. They're not JC. Yeah. Our biggest mistake is we're always looking for a second in command. And we think that we're looking for our twin. Did you watch Harvey Specter? He was hiring,
Okay.
the Suits, the show, Suits. It's a law firm.
I know about the show. I
People will
haven't
kill you.
watched it.
People will
I know.
kill you. Okay, so Harvey Specter told his secretary,
Yeah.
find me an employee and assistant. He's like, what are you looking for? He said, a second me. Okay. Right? So that's our biggest mistake. Moving on, talking about coaching and my coaches and whatever. Did you have any mentors? Who was your first ever mentor?
Oh my gosh. So I was an avid reader. My dad would read to us as when we were really small kids. And I think we were all reading on our own by the time we were 5 years old.
Wow.
And I mean, we learned 2 languages at the same time as well. So
I struggle with reading.
not in our house. In our house, we were all reading very young. And I think I was about 8. And I came upon the book called The Wild. It's written by Jack London. And I'm pretty sure that that's where I heard his, I think you say adage. I'm having trouble finding the word in English. But it was basically like his life guiding principle. And it's unsure if it was written by him or not, or if he took it from someone else. But it goes like this. I would rather be ashes than dust. I would rather my spark should burn out in a brilliant blaze than be stifled by dry rot. I would rather be a superb meteor, every atom of me in magnificent glow, than a sleepy and permanent planet.
You want to tell me that you understood what he meant at 8 years old?
Yeah.
I'm kind of struggling right now.
And I wasn't finished. You cut me off right in the middle.
See?
It'll get to that point. So rather than be a sleepy and permanent planet, the function of man is to live, not to exist. I shall not waste my time in trying to prolong them. I shall not waste my days in trying to prolong them. I shall use my time. And I read this, and I had read The Call of the Wild, which is this beautiful book about adventure in the north and sled dogs. And I was like, I want to live everything I can in this lifetime. If I have the choice between risking it or playing it safe, I'm going to risk it. And that's saying a lot for my type of personality, because you've gotten to know me a little bit. I'm not some person that jumps into things without unknowingly. I'm like eyes wide open.
If you know what you're doing, you'll jump. That's how I know you. Right? Which is smarter than me, because I'll jump anyway. But just dare me and I'll jump.
But wait, it's worse in a way too, because you might not have thought of all the stuff that can go wrong before you jump. You didn't take the time to analyze it. So
That's true.
It's easier for you to make that jump. When I make the jump, I'm aware of everything that could go wrong while I make it, and I still choose to make it. So
All I'm saying, if I can still eat and go to the hospital if I need it, God forbid, never slept in the hospital in my life, never broken, I'll take the risk. Everyone is afraid to take risks because they don't want to be embarrassed that they lost. It's all about people for them. And I hate these kind of people. They're afraid to be embarrassed in front of their friends, in front of their family. That's why they don't take risks. What if I lose? What are you going to lose? I thought about it many times. What are you going to lose as a Canadian citizen if you lose your business, if you bankrupt? What would your situation be? You're not going to be homeless. There's options. You're not going to be hungry. There's options. And always find a job like this. Everyone is dying for employees, especially for an ex-boss. And you're going to go to the hospital. You're single. You don't have kids. Take risks. I understand when you have kids, it's a little bit harder to take risks. There's a responsibility, but still take risks. They're not going to lose anything. Especially, I'm talking to North American, like especially Canadian. Because let's say in the USA, they don't have, the medical facilities that we have and the system that we have. I'm like, still not counting on yourself. I run a photography, videography company. I don't know how to take a picture. I don't know how to use these cameras. I don't. I've owned it for 4 years. We do 30 to 60 weddings every year.
Wow.
It's just a bunch of photographers and videographers who doesn't bet on themselves that they can actually start their own studio.
And that's a really sad, I wonder if that's like a mindset thing that came about during industrialization. I've heard like the Lebanese, the word les Phéniciens.
Yes.
Yeah, that the like this culture of wanting to build and yeah, whereas I don't know, it feels like somewhere it got lost in the history of Canada. And I think that's a really sad thing. I think that if we want to continue to uphold our democracy, we need to be more owners than employees.
Some people, they excel at being employees. I'm not going to lie. And they shouldn't be business owners. But here's the thing. If you're excellent at being an employee, your employer is going to make yours. Because no one is going to let go
Well said.
of a very good employee.
That's well said.
I had one employee. I had a discussion where I'm like, listen, you're a terrible employee, but you would make an excellent employee. Resign
And start
and start your own thing, and I'll support you. And I swear I subcontract her till today.
That's awesome.
She's a terrible employee. She can't take an order. If you give her an order, it's like you stabbed her. I'm like, my job is to give you a fucking order.
That's awesome.
Like, I would give her an order. She wouldn't say anything. She would say, yes, I'm going to do it. But I could see the fucking faith. Right? And you have other people, they just need directions. You do excellently. So if you know that you're good at being an employee, sure, be an employee. There's nothing wrong with being an employee. We need employees to grow. But be an excellent employee. This is also taking a risk. Why? Because you're counting and you're betting and not on yourself, on someone else that they're going to reward you on it. So this is also taking a risk.
100%. And I'm happy you mentioned that because that is something that we tend to forget. And there's also all the personal satisfaction that goes into taking your own project from A to Z, right? Even if it fails. I mean, having the knowledge that you got it done and that it's not this nagging dream that's still in a fetus inside of you that's just not let to live. Yeah. So at least, let it live. If it dies, be happy with what was done. But you're reminding me of something, and I don't know. We'll see how
this sentence will start. You remind me of something that ends with something weird. Okay, let's go.
I'll take my experience back to when I was training horses. There were some horses that were really difficult to train.
So I remind you of a horse.
Yeah, sure. We'll go down that path in a very cautious way.
Brad is dying in the background. It's like, JC, please shut up.
So there was horses that were considered really difficult to train. They'd have a different emotional outbursts that could be considered dangerous, that could create problems. And they basically have more complex personality. And this is true for humans too. What I found training these horses is if I could find ways of filling whatever needed to be filled. So in some cases, some horses needed more reassurance. In other cases, some horses needed more intellectual stimulation.
Mm-hmm.
And if I was able to find the right tweaking balance of that, then I wouldn't get all the explosions and all the craziness. And this horse would actually often be even better than the other ones because they had that little kick inside of giving that extra something, right? So I kind of always come back to humans are so diverse. There's not one human that is like, everyone you meet is different. And I think, like you said, if you want to be an employee, that's great. But if you're an employee because you don't think you can be anything else, and you have dreams inside you that you're not allowing to live and not bringing to completion, well, that's another question. And then I think it's like your responsibility, and I definitely take it as a responsibility myself, of when I meet people, I want to get to know them. I want to get to know their core. I want to be able to have those conversations of, like, what do you really want out of life? And is there anything I can do to help you along, and vice versa,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the one thing before we lock in this topic, I noticed something. The worst employees are the best employers. So if you find yourself that in the last 10 years, every employer of yours hated you, that means you should become an employee. Because when I would make a terrible employee. Terrible. I can't take one. If you tell me to do something, I might try to do it better. Break every rule you taught me just because I want to do what's in my mind.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the feature for we are not for. Just take it as another reason to start your own thing. You told me about your mentor when you were 8. How about your mentor when you're 25 right now?
Yeah. I'm 25.
Today you are.
Right now, oh my gosh, there is quite a few.
JC.
Well, you know what? Right now,
I'm joking. I'm not a narcissist. I'm just funny. I swear.
not a narcissist. But I mean, honestly, this is a surprise to me in 2025.
Your first podcast.
First podcast, thanks to you.
My honor.
Yes. I'd kind of let go of trying to get comfortable in front of a camera, and I was like, okay, I'll maybe attack this again 5 years down the road. We'll see. So yeah, in a way, you are.
I must say you're doing it. Doing it amazing.
We'll see how I feel afterwards.
I don't care. I care about now.
But no, for sure right now, you are one of those people in my life in the immediate. And I often have a mix of people that I look up to in the real time. And then, I mean, I'm in love with the written word. There's people that have been dead for centuries, and they're still my idols and my guideposts. And I'm going to continue to strive to move through life with their principles and hope to get anywhere near what they've achieved before they died, and what they had when they put it.
Give me one person.
For a good while, and he still has some guiding principles for me, was a man called Dr. Dwayne Dyer. He wasn't a doctor, like a medical doctor. He had a doctorate, and he really had a rough beginning to life. Lost his dad young, was in foster homes, and he had that one, like, when you talk about limiting beliefs, this guy just such an infinite mindset of, like, whatever. So, I mean, if you're struggling with anything mindset related, he's definitely really really lovely to look up.
A good fit
too. Yeah.
It's a good fit.
So he's definitely one of the ones